Welcome to Your Music is Bad and You Should Feel Bad. This is Matt, and this week we are going to be talking about new music, which is the thing that they call the music they write when you study composition in music school. You can't say atonal music because it's not always atonal. You can't say 20th century music because it is now the 21st century. So it's just new music or new concert music. Either way, it's very confusing to anyone who didn't go to music school. So Rich went to a particularly bad concert, and that led to us discussing more of what is possible in the crazy world of new music. Music is bad, you should feel bad. You should feel bad. Your music. All right. Well, let's start with. You said you went to a show.
Oh God, I did go to a show. This was bad. This is probably the worst show.
Wait, you have a program for it?
I have the program because I would not be able to remember. Am I what?
Are you mad? Are you in a fury?
I don't. So, for those playing the home game, Fury was the name of the event. So that was way wittier over here. Yeah. Okay. So, if you're a longtime listener to the podcast, you know my comments on listening to contemporary classical music at like when you're stuck at conservatory and it's like school, and this was basically this almost the same thing. The reason this was different was because there was one good piece on it as opposed to zero. But it was really bizarre that piece was on there because it made such a stark contrast with everything else. So let me just get that out of the way and tell you the piece that totally ruled. So there was this woman, Jessica Meyer. She plays viola, and she played it with a loop pedal. And she had this piece called Into the Vortex, and it was like pretty briv. There was like a lot of shreddy viola shit and like over a loop, and she even did the Ingve where she plays the open low string and detunes the tuner while she's doing that. So she's like it was so cool. So yeah, she was killing it. So she wrote that piece too. Like she writes I haven't had a chance to check her stuff out, but she says she's done a lot of stuff with loops and from her bio, which I read because I needed to do something during the show. And there were only so many notes I could take, which I took a lot. So in her thing, she says she does a lot of that. So yeah, Jessica Meyer, you check her out, especially if you're into weird electroacoustic music, because that was really cool. But yeah, the rest of this thing. So there's so much. I don't even know where to begin. So let me look at my notes. The overwhelming sort of sense that I had during this thing was like, are these people aware of everything else I could be listening to right now? No, right? No, because so I say this to people all the time, but I don't know if people listening to this know this thing. I don't care if your rock band that's playing at a bar sucks, because it's a bar. I can talk to whoever's there during the show, and they sell alcohol. Like, there's so many other things going on. But when you show up to one of these, like, concert music things where you're supposed to sit quietly, like, so it's like you are stuck, man. Like, you are there listening to the music. Then that's it. And so it's like, well, so if the ask is listen to this music, then it needs to be something worth listening to, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so I was just like, rite of spring is a thing. Like when people when people write music, And again, I get it if you're like 14 and or like you just want to like jam out, whatever. But if you're writing fucking concert music, like where you have to know how to notate and you need to know the ranges of stuff, and it's like, Rite of Spring is the thing. And so it's like, think about this. Would you rather people listen to your thing or Rite of Spring for the millionth time? And Rite of Spring for the millionth time wins out over like everything that I hear at these fucking shows. And so this one was super weird because, okay, yeah, it's like, I felt like I was back in grad school. And I got to preface this with, so it's like when we talked about Protean Collective, and I was saying like, my take on it's genuine because like I'm friends with them and their first album sucked, and I told them that, right?
Yeah.
So when the second album came out and I was like, this is amazing. I'm not saying that because I'm your friends, because remember how I told you that first album sucked? Okay, I know almost everyone that was involved in this concert.
Yeah.
And some of them are some of my best friends. And this was fucking total shit show. Like it was so terrible. And like, okay, all right. I'm getting frazzled here. I gotta let me get back to the notes. So I'm sitting there and it's difficult, right, to capture the mood or explain to people, especially if you've never been to this sort of new music concert, because if you live somewhere like St. Louis, like this shit doesn't even happen there.
Yeah.
Right? The only places where these sorts of things even happen are at like universities and on the coasts.
Yeah.
In Chicago. Actually, there's a venue in Chicago, it's called Constellation, where they have lots of new music concerts. So sort of the test I developed for how weird this music was, but also that would maybe convey something to those who have no idea what I'm talking about, is I wondered during most of these pieces whether I could just start in the middle of the piece, just sitting in the audience, just start talking aloud, and everyone would be able to hear me, and then be like, is this a piece of the art, or am I just some asshole talking out of place? And you wouldn't know. That's the thing. There was one piece, the looper viola piece, where you would have been like, why is this guy talking? But for any of the other pieces, there would have been sincere doubt about, is this guy talking out of place, or is this part of the performance? You wouldn't have known. It was like, we were talking about this earlier. I was telling Matt, like, my thing for if I'm like, I used to look like a rock star, and so if I was somewhere important, like say like first class on an airplane, and people might think I was famous, I would tell them that I was the guitar player from Tonic. Because you can't prove that I'm not, okay? Especially on an airplane. Like, you can't just like Google that and be like, you're not this guy. And the thing is,
in-flight Wi-Fi now.
Well, right, but if you pull up this dude's picture, aside from the age, but again, like if I was famous, I'd probably be aging really well. I look close enough that maybe that's what I looked like in the 90s, right? And so it's the same sort of deal where I'm like, if I start being an asshole in the middle of this, prove that I'm not supposed to, like you don't know. Yeah. And then if like, what would be even funnier is if someone like they started to like refute that, it'd be a total like who's on first thing where like you just engage in this dialogue as long as you don't back down.
Right. And someone like, if someone was like quiet, they're playing, someone else would be like, ooh, this is an interesting exchange.
Right. And then I'd just be like, shh. And like have everyone be like, shh.
And then right when the guy's like, come on, man, you go, boop, 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 boop. And then be dead silent. Right. And then just look at him like, come on, man, you're ruining the art.
Yeah. It's like a K.O.Dot show.
Yeah. Okay. And so now I imagine some people listening to this are like, no, this didn't happen. This is not a show. All right. Let me tell you something to maybe, if you're not convinced at this point, let me tell you something that hopefully will convince you. So one of the pieces, this dude brings out like a big, not like Tupperware. It's like one of those containers that you store a bunch of sweaters in, like in the summer, you go put it in your storage space or whatever. This big plastic container filled with water that at the beginning of the piece, he pulled a spaghetti strainer, like a colander or whatever. Like, this is how the piece started, was he pulled the spaghetti strainer out of the water, and then it's like, as the water drains out. And so this guy has like, I'm sure he has like a degree in orchestral percussion, right? And this is what he's doing.
Yeah.
So then, cause he was playing mallet percussion with like, marimba, vibraphone, glockenspiel. So he's got the mallets, right? And he played on some other pieces, and he's playing mallets on this piece. And there's a part in the piece where like, he has to like slap the top of the water, so it's like right with his hands, and then immediately play mallets again. So he's like, his hands are wet, and he's like, and I'm just like, okay. But anyway, and then again, and then after, hold on, so I wrote this down. Let me make sure I get this correct. After he pulls the strainer, like it didn't like it was like not a hiss, but not a shit. They all made some weird sound. And then later he actually pulled the strainer out again. Like it was some sort of recapitulation. I don't know. But so let me talk a little bit more about this piece, because so after the strainer and the hissing, the violin played one high harmonic and the piano played one low note, like, and they so on the violin you can sustain the harmonic, right? But the piano you have to keep restriking the note, so it's like and it's like bong bong bong, and it was in this rhythm that it felt like some kind of bizarro Christmas carol. Like it was like, no, I was just like, oh, this shit.
You've given me
Like-
an idea for a piece, by the way.
Yeah, a bizarro Christmas carol.
No, just a bizarro like concert piece.
Oh well, I'm sure you could get it programmed.
We just need
Oh,
like
wait,
a ring.
no, I'm sorry,
So
this
wait,
was-
hold on. So by bizarro concert piece, is it going to be tonal? Like, because it's the opposite of.
Oh, we're
Well,
gonna talk about
doesn't
that.
matter. But I think a way to jazz these shitty performances up would
Yeah.
be to have a ring and some backyard wrestling going on in
Oh,
the foreground.
speaking of which, did you see the thing I tagged you in today? So Protean Collective, again, they posted this
Right.
thing.
Oh,
They were
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
heavy metal and pro wrestling
Heavy
podcast.
metal
Oh, fuck
and
yes.
I was like, we
Wait, isn't
need
that
to
us?
listen to this. Well, right, I'm like, that's what we talk about.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But
Right,
it's
I
totally
was-
unintentional. It's just what happens.
Right.
No, so we got to listen. It was called Neckbreaker, I think. So shout out to some podcasts none of us have ever listened to yet. Your format sounds interesting. It's probably going to be super disappointing. But anyway,
Yeah.
we'll go listen to it, report back.
I hope. Well, no, but I hope it's super disappointing, because my whole thing is like, every time I hear about a music podcast, and I'm like, all right, let me see what these guys are about, and then I'm like, all right, cool, they're not doing remotely the same thing I'm trying to do. They can go fuck right off.
Yeah, okay.
Or, I mean, check out their podcast. Whatever. I haven't heard it yet.
We
but
haven't heard it.
whatever
We
you-
neither. We got to take a very Herman Cain stance on this.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So right. So the tonal thing. So right. So these pieces, it was super weird because so a bunch of them were in this thing where, right, like there's this trend in concert music called new simplicity that's been big for a minute. And the thing is, you can't just write straight up tonal music, because then you just sound like a crappier version of Mozart or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would I listen to this? So people, it's like their new spin on tonality. Okay. And one guy got it right. But in his music is not part of the new simplicity thing. Radivara's Seventh Symphony is like crazy good. And it's also like loosely tonal. Like a lot of the stuff is, it's tertian, but it'll be like augmented triads and stuff, right? So it's not like functional, like do, so, do, right? Okay, so what they do though is they're like, okay, well, so it's like tonal, like it's in a scale, like there might be a key signature on the thing, but then there's like no melody. And so you're like, well, so what? you know, because even atonal music a lot of times has a melody. It's just weird. So then it's like, okay, well, then there's just this mass. So that doesn't really make sense, because you've taken tonal music, which is this thing I not going to go to a new music show to hear. And then you removed half of what makes it work. So now it's just like really bad tonal music. I don't understand what the motivation for this is at all, other than you're mistaken. You know what I mean? It's literally it's so bad. Okay, so then a lot of these pieces were for voice. It had at least one vocalist. And when it was like one of the first composition classes I ever took in undergrad, and we had to do like a Schubert style art song. And one of the things the professor said, he was, don't repeat text, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff when you're writing art song about diction. You need to write in a register where people can understand what the hell you're saying, because it's not the thing where you have the liner notes, right? You don't have the lyrics. You need to understand what someone's saying. And if you notice, and this is one of the things that really bugs me about heavy metal, if you listen to like run-of-the-mill heavy metal, not major label heavy metal, so like not Queensryche or stuff that actually does this right, and you'll realize this when I'm done saying it. If you listen to, say, even shit that totally rules, like Mercenary, you listen to the mix, right? The vocals are way out in front when you listen to Queensryche, and they're just buried in the mix when you listen to Mercenary or like anything else.
Yeah.
And the intelligibility is really bad. A lot of times you need to read the liner notes. And we're not even talking about black metal here, like
Right.
where people are growling or shouting or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally just you're singing, but you didn't think about intelligibility, and it's not mixed for intelligibility, and you're like, well, I have liner notes, and English is my first language anyway, so I'm not really qualified to have an opinion on what qualifies as intelligible.
Melody Garden, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Memory Garden. Sorry, wow.
Well, I thought that we were making a joke based on the thing, but anyway,
It works.
we'll let that slide.